Welcome to Sustainable Packaging with Cory Connors. Today's guest is my friend, Mr. Tim Sykes, the brand director for Packaging Europe. How are you, Tim?
I'm great, thank you. And thanks so much for inviting me, Cory. I'm really excited to be on this major industry podcast.
Oh, I'm excited. It was my honor to be on your show the other day or yesterday, and this worked out really well with timing, but you've got some exciting announcements that we need to make right away, and very excited to tell people about all of those. But first, can we tell the people about you? How'd you get into this crazy industry?
By complete chance. So my background isn't in packaging at all. I studied jazz and literature. In fact, I did a PhD in Russian literature. It's not the classical route into the packaging industry, I think you'll agree. And I kind of landed into journalism and then joined Packaging Europe at its very outset, knowing nothing about packaging at all. I knew plenty about editing and communications, but nothing about packaging. And I very quickly came to realize how important packaging is generally, but also how centrally connected it is to so many of the fundamental challenges and changes taking place in the contemporary world. Obviously, sustainability is the big one, but you know, the way that we are communicating, consuming, and living is all in flux at the moment with digitization and all of the other big changes going on in the world. And packaging is really at the center of that, and it creates a lot of big challenges for packaging to respond to it. But also, you know, the world needs packaging to get these things right in order to proceed sustainably and efficiently. So yeah, I came in with no pre-existing curiosity about packaging, but suddenly, very quickly, I came to realize that I'd fallen into a kind of really fascinating and important part of the world.
Well, I love that story and quite a background that you have, and it makes sense for journalism. But yeah, packaging is this very interesting world. Everyone I interview, almost everyone says the same thing. I just kind of got into it and never left because it's such a neat area of the business world to work in. It affects us all, and most people don't think about it like we do, but more and more they'll be affected by it with these new laws and everything coming. But
indeed, and I'd also say that, you know, when I first started, this is 16, 17 years ago, if I told people what I did, you know, at a party, someone might back away from me and try to avoid getting into that conversation. But at least here in Europe, we're based in the UK. In Europe, over the last maybe 5 years, it's suddenly become such a hot topic. And then, you know, if I'm at a party, then people start giving me their opinions on packaging. So we've seen an arc in that respect, changes in public perception.
That's very true. And it used to be where people did, what does that mean? What is packaging? And now they say, oh, wait, tell the government not to do this. Let's do this instead. Like, can you tell this brand to stop by using this kind of clamshell and use this kind instead? That kind of thought is really, really cool to hear from people. They're interested. They want to be a part of the solution. This brand that you work at has been around a long time. Did it start as a magazine, or what was the impetus for it?
Yes, it did. We launched in 2006, and initially it was a magazine which, you know, also had a website. It's no surprise to you or any of the listeners that things very quickly changed, and almost immediately we started diversifying into digital content, video podcasts like yours, and increasingly live content, both virtual, which we had to do a lot of during the pandemic lockdown years, and physical events. And I guess as we've proceeded, we've kind of had to understand what our purpose is as an organization, and that has gradually over the years crystallized into a mission where we feel like our purpose is to support the international packaging value chain in helping find its way to a sustainable future. And when I say sustainable, obviously we're thinking about environmental sustainability in particular, right. But maybe, as I slightly alluded to at the start, there are so many big challenges coming at packaging, societal and business challenges, that packaging innovation and packaging strategies need to respond to. So in a broader sense, we're also kind of thinking about how can packaging of the future be fit for purpose and meet all of those requirements that come to us. So we're yeah, we're trying to be a platform that helps educate everyone along that value chain in understanding what they're going to need to be doing in the future years technologically and more strategically to keep up and meet those needs.
You and your co-workers there and cohorts in Europe are making some big moves, and we're watching. We're thankful that you're taking these steps, that you're trying out different ways of doing things. I often will speak to someone on this podcast and they'll say, wow, did you see what they did in England the other day? Whoa, that's a big move. Let's see how that pans out for them. I think you're the leaders in the sustainable packaging movement. You know, France and England and Germany and these countries are doing incredible things. And like I said, making big changes and hoping that they work out. I'm impressed with your society, how quickly they're adapting to these different ways of behaving with packaging. It's not easy as a citizen to all of the sudden, wait, I have to do what? I have to take this to the grocery store, or I have to, this is reusable now. How does that work? So it's an education process.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Europe, obviously, it sounded like you were giving me compliments. Obviously, I can't take
Yes,
credit for what Europe as a continent is doing,
of
but
course.
it's nice to hear that Europe as a region is in the vanguard of trying to push these things forward. And I think the European Union has been very useful as a kind of platform to push the agenda forward and to kind of harmonize and standardize some of the moves forward. I think I'm also aware that, you know, we have a lot of challenges and problems, partly because we started doing things first and therefore, you know, made mistakes like everyone does. So Europe has relatively good collection and recycling rates in, you know, most countries compared to other regions of the world, but there's a lot of fragmentation. There's a lot of it's very hard to, once you've created a big infrastructure, to change it. And I think it's useful for, you know, other parts of the world to both follow what Europe has done and also maybe avoid some of the mistakes that have been made. And particularly when you think of developing countries, there's an opportunity to kind of skip ahead of some of the first generation
Right.
systems and infrastructure that we have, and to do things in a more smart and agile way when setting up new waste disposal and collection systems in a digital age. You know, I think there's lots of opportunities there. So
Yes.
it's great to be close to the heart of Europe in understanding how we can push forward the agenda. And although we're Packaging Europe, we're very much focused on this as a global challenge when we come to sustainability. But I think it's also clear that Europeans shouldn't be arrogant and think, you know, we've got nothing to learn. There's for example, in Asia, there's lots of things going on that are really exciting that we need to be aware of. And yeah, we need to be part of a global dialogue about how we can align better and learn from each other as well.
Very true. Very well said. People in Japan and Australia, and there are some countries out there that have really dialed in a recycling system and a circular packaging system that works very well. So lots of people we could emulate and look to for wisdom. I'm excited to talk about these sustainability awards. Can you tell us about the awards coming up and how we can enter?
Certainly, yeah, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about
Oh yeah.
this. So first of all, the purpose of the Sustainability Awards basically give an annual snapshot of the most important sustainable innovation that's going on around the world and throughout the packaging value chain. And that goes back to our core mission at Packaging Europe of supporting the international packaging community to accelerate work we can do in sustainable transformation. It's been going for about 10 years now, and every single year across that time, the volume of engagement has grown substantially, both in terms of the numbers who are joining and entering the awards, and in terms of the diversity geographically and types of innovation that we're seeing. So I guess that's encouraging to see that more and more of the industry is taking this seriously. So yeah, who should enter the awards? It's deliberately holistic. So we understand that everyone across the value chain has something to contribute when we're bringing sustainable innovation to the market. So obviously packaging materials, new types of packaging design, also machinery. Obviously we need to have the machines that can more efficiently produce packaging with lower energy inputs or facilitate the changes of the material that we want to bring. And there are no barriers to entry as well. So for a start, it's free to enter. We don't want smaller organizations to think, do we have the budget for this? It's open to anywhere in the world. And in fact, I'm very proud of the Sustainability Awards, but it's still growing, it's still getting established. I believe it's to my knowledge, the biggest sustainable packaging innovation competition in the world, but it's quite Eurocentric still. So we had 360 entries last year, and I imagine it will be over 400 this year. But I'm very aware that we need to have more engagement from the Americas, from Asia, from Africa. So I know that you have a global audience, and it's fantastic that they can hear about this. I would really love to hear to receive submissions from whoever's listening. So whether it's universities, global brand owners, startups, we want to shine a light on everything that's making a contribution to packaging sustainability. Yes, I should tell you that submissions opening on the day that we record, it's next week. I can tell you that submissions will be opening on January 16th and staying open until March 17th. So you have a couple of months to do it. And you can enter via the competition portal, which you can find the link and all the details about the Sustainability Awards on the Packaging Europe website.
And I'll include that link at the bottom of the show notes so people can just click on it and
thank you so much.
Make it really easy. So there's no barriers to entry, like you mentioned. You're right about this show and your show being global. I received a message from my now friend Laura Botta, who runs Botta Packaging out of Italy. And she said, I'm listening to your show on the train to Milan. And I thought, wow, here I am, a kid from Oak Grove, Oregon, USA, all the way around the country, and she's enjoying this content and appreciating it, because that's the goal. We want to educate and share and let people know all over the world what's possible with packaging, and really, truly innovative things coming through the pipeline right now into the atmosphere. It's very exciting. I want to hear your opinion on any thoughts, things that are maybe exciting to you, trends in the packaging industry that you think, wow, that's really interesting.
So there's so much going on, and I will focus primarily on sustainability, since that's the headline of what we're talking about today.
Right.
So where do I start? I guess obviously elimination of waste, and especially plastic waste, has been a really fierce focus for industry for the last few years. And from this, I think some of the key trends we're seeing are fiber-based materials or bioplastics. So trying to extends the properties and applications that we can use, paper and similar materials in order to avoid having to use plastic in the first, bringing, renewables in instead of fossil-based plastics as well. Secondly, a really important area is we're obviously going to need plastics. There are so many applications where only plastics will work, or they are going to be far more resource efficient than other alternatives. So it's of crucial importance that we build a functioning and universal circular economy in plastics. So within Europe, there's a really, really important platform called CFlex, which is trying to construct a circular economy for flexible packaging. Obviously, this is an area that's especially important because of the volumes involved, but also because of the complexity of flexible packaging substrates, where there's lots of multi-material laminates.
Right.
They've done a really, really important, rigorous job in mapping out all of the steps from design for recyclability to understanding how a circular economy works and how we can provide the investment and the incentives for these circular materials to continually go round the loop. So wherever you are in the world, I think it's really worth watching what CFlex is doing. I think within that circular economy for plastics, EPR is another hugely important thing. we're getting to the point where we can, in most cases, see how you can replace hard to recycle plastic with a recyclable one. But having the demand for that recyclate, having the investments is going to be crucial. So I think that's increasingly where the crux of those discussions are happening. And within that, I would say that the UN Treaty on plastic waste, which is proceeding with a lot of backing, a lot of nation states and key corporates supporting it, should be crucial in setting up that kind of legal regulatory framework to help extend that to markets where not much is happening at the moment. And then within elimination of waste, the other thing that I think is really important, and which you spoke about very interestingly in our podcast, was reuse and refill. I think there's still a lot of untapped potential to switch from single-use packaging to multi-use, particularly in things like concentrates and waterless packaging, where I think that's really low-hanging fruit, and we all need to think about how can we drive that at scale and faster than it's happening at the moment. If I haven't talked too much, I'll mention a couple of other things. Do stop
please.
me.
It's your show, my friend. Let's talk about it. I love it.
So I think the other thing that, with this focus on waste and particularly plastic waste, there's always a danger that we forget about unintended consequences.
Right.
And I'm horrified when I see the consequences of plastic waste in the environment, but I'm terrified by what scientists project about climate change. And I think we need to be very, very careful as an industry that we put net zero of carbon at the center of all of our thinking, and that we aren't just talking about a economy, but that we are really actively planning a low carbon circular economy.
Right.
Often things that you do for waste elimination will also have positive effects on carbon, but there are some shortcuts to getting rid of plastics, for example, which can also at the same time increase the carbon footprint, and that's not the direction we want to go in. And then the final thing I would mention is, years ago, I would never have imagined speaking so enthusiastically about packaging. As I say, this is the life transformation it's brought on me. So the final thing to mention is digitization, and the world is transforming within our lifetimes. It's transformed how I consume, how I communicate, and everything else. Seeing e-commerce obviously transform the retail landscape. And I think that creates a lot of requirement for us to build new paradigms for what does packaging do, what's the way of optimizing packaging, how do we make sure that it's efficient, what do we need to protect, etc. That's still in its infancy, and I think one of the most interesting things to watch when we look at packaging innovation and everything. And more broadly, with digitization of manufacturing and logistics and consumption and everything else, I think there's a lot of opportunities to harness the data from the connectivity that we get across that whole supply chain and through to the consumer to give us more transparency, security, consumer engagement, and to deliver sustainability. So yeah, when we think about innovation, I think that's a really exciting area, and we've got intelligent packaging possibilities. One of Packaging Europe's partnerships is with IPEA, the Active and Intelligent Packaging Industry Association. We will be hosting their World Congress in November alongside our Sustainable Packaging Summit.
Wow.
And I think that's a really, really, really interesting area. And one final thing, and I'll promise I will finally shut up, is digital watermarking. I think that's a really, really, it's an example of intelligent packaging, but I think it's one that's particularly exciting because it's already, I'm sure you're aware of the Holy Grail project in Europe, where it's being used to optimize the sorting in waste centers. And I think it's got so many added value opportunities that it's almost a no-brainer that becomes a universal technology that can optimize and add more value to the circular economy, but also bring all sorts of other brand engagement and supply chain advantages. So I think that's a really exciting one.
Well said. Very true. So exciting. This Digimark system, I interviewed Amp Robotics. They're one of the companies that makes those cameras and systems that sorts packaging for recycling. And they said, what if you could tell the brand that manufactures the packaging exactly how much was recycled and where? The possibilities here are endless with this information. How exciting is this that we could say we've recycled 90% of this material? Whoa, that's incredible. I think we'll start to see real data like that coming to fruition and being made public once this system really takes hold. I'm excited about it. And I want to talk about your show in November in Amsterdam. It's in Amsterdam, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
What's it called?
it's the Sustainable Packaging Summit. It's all about aligning all of the leadership across the value chain. So the brands, the packaging manufacturers, the big chemical companies, but also investors, regulators, waste management people. There's, we've listed a lot of the challenges that industry needs to face, and it's very clear that these are very complex things with many moving parts, and it's important not only that everyone acts vigorously on their agenda, but also that we're really well aligned in making sure that we're all pushing in the same direction. And there's so many, as you know, so many different nuances and things around that we need to be clear on. So the purpose of the Sustainable Packaging Summit is to get that kind of strategic alignment, really focusing on where are the pain points, where's the friction that we need to eliminate, what are the smarter strategies that we need to follow. That's on the kind of strategy side, but also to look at where are the technological opportunities that we can grasp, where are the interesting startups that the established players need to be aware of. So it's a mixture of strategy and technology. And as I said, we will also have the IPF Smart Packaging World Congress involved, and maybe some other interesting satellite events where we're reaching out to various key players, and hopefully we'll have the famous Cory there as well. Consider yourself invited. And last but not least, to close the loop, the Sustainability Awards, we will be having the awards ceremony there and announcing the winners across all of those categories. So that's taking place November 13th to 15th November this year, Amsterdam, Netherlands. And if any of your listeners are really serious in taking a leadership role in sustainability and helping push the industry into the future, then we'd love to see you there.
Are you open to sponsorships of the show? Do you accept that kind of a thing?
We do, yes. Yeah. So feel free to reach out if you're interested in that.
Great. Well, I'd be honored to be there and excited to do it. I think we could do some live podcasts from the event and make it really interesting for the audience and spread the word about sustainable packaging. Thank you so much, Tim. This has been a real honor and an exciting podcast to be a part of. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Cory. Thank you so much. And I'd like to just also thank you and say I really appreciate the role that you play and also how generous and open you are. It's easy when you're in the media space. We're not competing commercially with each other, but to some extent everyone is competing for attention, aren't they? And it's easy to kind of be a gatekeeper. We've mentioned a few times in this podcast how important it is to collaborate, to support this common mission that we all have. And I think it's important that people like us are also supporting each other rather than trying to keep for themselves the mission. So thank you so much. It's been great to talk to you, and I look forward to, I'm sure, many more such conversations on both of our platforms in the future.
Oh, I love it. I'm excited about it too. And you're right. We have to work together to solve these issues and to spread the message about what's possible. So thanks again, Tim. Thank you, Landsberg Aurora, for sponsoring. If you're listening, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And we appreciate it. Thank you so much.